We'll conclude part 2 of our series titled Discerning Your Path Forward with lesson 5, and it's titled 3 Words for Spiritual Growth. These are 3 words that I am very happy to share with you. They are very important in my own work, my thinking, my ways of being in the world. These 3 words are invitation, apprenticeship, and action. Invitation, apprenticeship, and action. These 3 words form the core of my book, actually, Dare to Believe, Rise Up to Act. So they're very vital words, very beautiful and dynamic words, and we'll take a look at them right now. Starting with invitation. To be invited means to be beckoned by another into encounter, to be beckoned by another into encounter, into possibility, to be beckoned toward a larger horizon. Being invited actually frees you from anxious phrases like I should or I'm supposed to. Everything in our life, we are invited. Even in the days, I'm thinking as a child when I had to go to school, I was being invited to learn and to discover. So many times when we think, oh, we should do this, or it's a burden, but I ought to do it, think of what the invitation is. I am being invited to be present in this way, to be of use in this way. So it frees you, that phrase, being invited, frees you from anxiety. Invitation also carries a sense of wonder and holy possibility. We are invited to go to that next step, to go where we have not been before, to step just beyond that green growing edge of our lives. And we always know the magnitude of the invitation by the intensity of the pushback. I'm going to repeat that because it's pretty important. We know the magnitude of the invitation by the intensity of our pushback. So you can ask yourself, where am I pushing back in life? What is it that I keep saying no to? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to pursue that. What's the invitation on the other side? And when you can name that invitation, it changes the dynamic. The second word is apprenticeship. Actually, this word was very much alive in the Middle Ages, back in the Renaissance, when young people would be apprenticed to a master, maybe in a craft, a form of livelihood. Maybe in the arts, it might be agrarian, learning to farm and plant and harvest. People were apprenticed to that way of life in which they would eventually become a master. So to be apprenticed means to observe the master, to do with the master, and then to do alone as the master observes. So to watch, to do with, and then to do alone, to gain that mastery. Apprenticeship, then, is a form of learning at the green growing edge of your life. I love that image of the green growing edge, that place that is full of vitality where you have not yet stepped beyond. And so apprenticeship is that form of learning right there at that green growing edge of your life. Honestly, we never really know when an apprenticeship begins. I often find in my spiritual direction practice that people's apprenticeship begins maybe a year or two before they change into a new decade. Something new seems to happen. If you think back when you were When you turned 30, you were so not in your 20s anymore. When you turned 40, you were so not in your 30s anymore. When you turned 60, you were so not in your 50s anymore. So it seems that we begin an apprenticeship in that time leading up to a new personal decade. And I work with people to help them to discern what really new is emerging in their life. So we seldom know when that begins. We can't really name it. We can look back and say, oh, well, yes, of course, I was being apprenticed all along to this assignment in my life now. And of course, we are never given the curriculum. The master never reveals what is going to be taught. Our work is to show up and to be faithful to the master who is there to teach us how to grow in holiness in our way of life. The third word is action, a very important word in my spirituality, in my spiritual direction, in my writing, my speaking, my thinking, taking action. So to take action means to show up, first of all, to show up, and secondly, to step through the door that has been opened to you. To show up and to step through the door that has been opened to you, to take action. Action requires courage, and we know that courage is given as a gift of the Holy Spirit. It's not that we're bereft of courage, it's that we're now being asked to use the gift that we have already been given. Action requires courage. Action also moves you from private faith into the public realm. It moves you from private faith to, oh, now I actually have to step into the public realm and take action. It might be the public realm of your neighborhood, your community, your town. It might be the public realm of acting in the larger world. But it moves you, action moves you from that private faith into the public realm. And as I like to say, when you act, you give God something to work with. This is a phrase that I've used so often that people are now echoing it back to me. They report in and say, I took some action. I gave God something to work with. And they're so happy to report back on that. So when you act, you give God something to work with. Maybe it's not the ultimate act. Maybe it's not even the act you really could have taken that would have gotten you more directly to where you need to be. But you've given God something to work with, where God can say, oop, not right on that path. Why don't we back up a step, go this direction? But you wouldn't have known that, but you gave God something to work with. That's the beautiful thing. So, action. So why are invitation, apprenticeship, and action vital to your spiritual growth? Very simply, they equip you. And I want to give you that phrase, they equip you to meet the demands of the times in which you live. That sounds like a global statement, but it might be very local. The demands of the times in which you live. It might be the times in which a family member is recuperating from major surgery. It might be the times when your town is trying to set a budget that has some justice in it. It might be something very close in. These words equip you to meet those demands. This is the Christ-centered life. Living as though you are equipped to meet the demands of the times in which you live is the Christ-centered life. You've arrived full circle. So invitation, apprenticeship, and action enable your gifts to intersect with the world's needs. Invitation, apprenticeship, and action enable your gifts to intersect with the world's needs. It doesn't get any better than that, any clearer than that, any simpler than that. That's the beautiful thing. So you can practice this in a quiet moment. Ask yourself, where and how do I show up in my world? Where do I show up and how do I show up? Where do I show up? I tell a story in my book, Living as Jesus Taught, how I showed up at a city council meeting, which is going to be discussing an issue important to me, which is how to relieve the suffering of unhoused people in my town. So the where part was easy. I showed up at city council. But so many people had signed up to give testimony that I thought, I won't sign up to testify. And my friends thought that was curious. And so I got up and I signed the sheet so that I could actually speak my 2-minute testimony. That was the how of how I show up. So you can ask yourself, where and how do I show up? Secondly, what invitations might I be resisting? Where am I giving pushback in my life? What invitations am I saying, nah, I really don't want to go there? So that's your homework. I want you to do it because it will matter to your life. And we've now completed part 2 of our series on spiritual growth. Part 3 comes next. It's called Being Witness in the World. And it focuses on the urgency of the times and our response. So I want you to come back, join us for part 3. Stay tuned, stay with us, and stay well.